down. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We are officially in the playoffs. We had some drama in week 18. We're here to cover all of it. And we got our predictions for the wild card round. First of all, Smokey, how you doing?
Oh, man, I am good. And you know what? I wanted to go through and pick, Packers or Lions or Steelers, someone that got knocked out of the playoffs here. But I am better than TCU fans right now because that was the worst beatdown of all time. Not only in championship games, any playoff games or any bowl games of all time, that was the worst beatdown. It had never happened.
That's the big one. Any bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Like half the country plays in bowl games nowadays every year. So there is hundreds and hundreds of bowl games in history.
Yes.
And it was bad. How did this team beat Michigan, who beat Ohio State, who took Georgia to almost overtime?
I have no clue. I've been thinking about that the whole time. I was thinking, did Michigan just get lucky when they beat Ohio State? Like, is that what it is? Or did Georgia just play a bad game against Ohio State? It doesn't make sense. I mean, it wasn't a great game, I'll tell you that. Georgia did not play their best in that game, but they were still good enough to win in the end, with the help of that missed field goal. But I don't know. TCU looked like they did not belong there. The moment was just too big for them. This is a team that won like 5 games last year. Only 4 of their players had ever played in a bowl game, so that could be the situation. It was just too big for them and they weren't prepared for it.
I guess so. The question should really become now. That happened with Cincinnati last year, TCU this year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you keep if you just get 4 teams and they should expand it, of course. But if you just keep it with 4 teams, can you really afford to do this like every year? I'm not saying it just because of like homerism, but if this is Alabama, this does not happen.
No, not at all. It would have been a much closer game if it was Alabama or, even Tennessee, I think. Even though they got stomped out earlier in the season by Georgia, I think it would have been a better game than TCU. I mean,
maybe USC even, but definitely the SEC teams. This does not happen. I don't know how they beat Michigan now, honestly. I have no idea. Maybe Michigan is just worse than we thought, or maybe they had a bad game or something, but this was not a competitive team at all.
No.
And they had us thinking for a week that they were. I
mean, it was just from the first quarter they got stomped out, and they busted the game wide open by halfway through the second quarter. There was just no hope. They even tried doing the old trick of putting in a backup quarterback, and that's worked against Georgia before, but no, he got stomped out too. I started feeling bad for TCU. When we hit the fourth quarter, I'm like, man, y'all just run the ball. Like, come on, you don't have to kill them that bad.
The question now is how high can the draft stock for Stetson Bennett still rise? Like, where are we at the moment? Are we knocking on the first round yet, or are we're still kind of conservative?
Well, I had all season, I was thinking it's going to be more like third round. Last year I think he would have went in the last round. I think he would have been there with Purdy if he would have signed up for the draft last year. This whole season I've been thinking, okay, he's been playing really good. Maybe it's a third rounder. But after that, I mean, there's a championship bias when it comes to the draft. And these coaches will go out on a limb and draft guys that were playing in the championship ahead of where they should have. So there's a possibility he goes high second, something like that. I haven't seen any mocks yet since after that game, but I'd imagine some people bumped him up, and there's a possibility.
We'll see. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the draft this year, so if he had come out last year, maybe that would have helped him. But then again, of course, he played like his best season. Yeah. So you just gotta think like he's been getting better. He's constantly getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Much better than I ever thought he would be in his entire career. I never thought I would see him progress to this point, but here he is, and he's turned out to be a really good quarterback. Definitely not better than Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or any of those guys, but probably goes before Max Duggan at this point.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, if you look at last year's class, again, it's not been a big sample size, but right now, like, Purdy went as the last pick in the draft. If they could redraft it now, he'd be the first quarterback off the board. You never know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
there's something there that
You think he
people
would've-
will take a shot at Stetson.
Yeah, I guess he would have moved up over Pickett. You think if they knew that he was going to be this good?
Yeah, for sure. He's
I think Pickett,
after 1 year is by far the best quarterback of the class.
Yeah, I mean technically, yeah.
It's too early to evaluate it, of course, long term, but right now that's how it looks.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. Pickett is looking good though, and I think he's gonna be doing okay come next season.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I think he's the long term starter in Pittsburgh too. I think they'll be just fine, and they avoided the losing record yet again, which we thought impossible when they were sitting at 4-8, and they made it to 9-8 somehow. Mike Tomlin has never lost, never had a losing season.
Amazing the luck he has, yeah.
But we have a playoff slate, and we have a couple of really good. Actually, all of these games are kind of really good now because it is the playoffs. We'll go through them step by step. We'll quickly talk about how we got here, and then give our picks. So, starting off with the Seahawks at the Niners.
I will ask you before we start on that. Do you want to hear about last week's picks?
Oh, I do. How did that go?
I shouldn't have even brought it up, to tell you the truth. It's amazing. I don't know how this always happens, but you happen to get 3 more than I did.
Wow.
Let's see. We disagreed on the Chiefs and Raiders. I thought maybe they had one in them and the Chiefs were going to rest. Nope, wasn't to be. Bucks and Falcons. My Falcons actually pulled that one off, and I was assuming the Bucks would go ahead and roll right over them. But hey, it gives me hope for the future. Panthers and Saints. You had the Saints. Browns and Steelers. You had the Steelers. And the Giants and Eagles. I didn't realize the Giants would go ahead and sit everyone. I guess I should have because it made sense. But since you scored 3 more than me, you had 12 on the week and I had 9. Bringing our grand total to 177 to 177.
It almost like it's scripted. I
Exactly.
promise we have no executive power over how NFL games turn out. It is pure coincidence.
Absolutely. And we're on record each week making these predictions before the games happen. So.
Can prove that this is legit if anyone doubts it. But we have a history of this. But to me, obviously, this is great. This is awesome because I was fearful that, in the playoffs, you have a lot of close games usually, but you generally have a favorite in most of them. More often than not, it's the higher seed and the home team because we've seen a lot of games already. We kind of know which teams are good. If we had gone into this with like a 2 or let alone 3 game deficit, for me, I would have made a lot of out there picks. I'd have to. Because there's not that many games left. Well, there's 6 games this weekend and 4 more. There's 13 games left in total, right? I would have had to make a lot of out there picks to make up 3 points. Now I don't have to necessarily do that. Still probably will every once in a while, but I'm glad about that. That's good. How have you compared it to our numbers from previous seasons? The 177. Is it any improvement at all?
Oh, I haven't, but I do have them right here. Let's see if I can find. Going into wild card week. This one was from last year. No, yeah, this was last year here. Oh, wow. This is where I was ahead of you. I think you caught up in the playoffs last year. But it was actually 178 to 170 heading into the playoffs last year.
To 170?
Yeah.
8 points? Wow.
Yeah. How did you make up that many points? That's ridiculous.
I probably didn't make up that many in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I thought we tied last year. I know we tied.
The year before
previous.
that, we did that.
Here, I have 2020 right here. Let me find wild card week. Oh, but yeah, we had one extra game from those years. So going into wild card week, it was 172 to 173 in 2020.
That means we actually probably did better in 2020. Because it's
Yeah.
only like a 5-game improvement, which is a below average for 1 week.
Yes.
For
That's
sure.
crazy considering how that season played out.
Yeah. But now we have of course 18 total weeks. So that's our new benchmark. Right? It's the like sort of 177 mark.
I think so.
And
yeah.
we'll see if we can exceed 180 in the next season, hopefully. for the regular
Absolutely.
season.
Yeah.
But we have playoff games to talk about. So Seahawks at the Niners is the first one.
You guys get to play one more time this season. Gino
One
pulled
more
it.
time.
Yeah.
Are you talking to Seattle, not to me? Okay. fine.
Well, both of you, but Gino pulled it out. It was not a great game in my opinion, but they got the win. They made the playoffs, and it looks dismal in my opinion. I know that Seahawks fans are happy and they're celebrating, but it looks dismal for them, especially going against the 49ers, probably the best team in the NFC right now. This should not be much of a game. Now, I guess the only thing that would lean in their favor is Brock Purdy. You know, first time he's going to be playing a playoff game for sure, but he's been playing really well, and that defense is still amazing. There is no reason that I would not take the 49ers at home here.
Is this also the first time Geno Smith plays in the playoffs, or did I miss something there with the Jets? Was he there at some point?
Oh, you know what? I think it is the first time, because the only time they made the playoffs would have been with Ryan Fitzpatrick, right?
Yeah, Mark Sanchez did it too a bit earlier on, but Geno, I don't remember it happening. So might also be the first one for him. Not 100% sure on that one. I'm going to agree with your pick. Obviously, clearly, I'll take the Niners. They're almost 10-point favorites, which is a big line, but they've beaten this team twice convincingly. You could argue that it's hard to beat a team twice or even 3 times in one season, which is kind of true, but they're just a much better team, and Seattle just snuck in. This, to me, is probably the most favorable outcome for one side. Now, obviously, I don't like Seattle, and I don't want them to make the playoffs ever, but purely from the Niners' perspective, I'd rather play Seattle again than I play Detroit, and especially rather than I play Aaron Rodgers. Because Rodgers in the 7th seed, you have no idea what's going to happen, and this line would be like 3 or 4 points, and now it's 9.5. Detroit's also dangerous with their offense, so it's the devil you know versus the one you really don't, or you don't know what to expect. So I'm taking the Niners, but I'm glad about this matchup. It's probably the most favorable one, but you still have to get it done. Young quarterback. I have total faith in Brock Purdy. More week to week, I'm getting more confident that he'll be the long-term starter. But let's see what he can do when the chips are in the middle. Herbert at Lawrence. So the Chargers and the Jaguars.
This is good. This is good. This is a good matchup. I love 2 young quarterbacks who are surging at the time. Although Herbert is great, but the Chargers are not really looking great right now. I mean, yeah, you lost to the Broncos. You can say that they were resting guys and taking it easy because they knew the playoffs were coming up. This is a 10-win team, so maybe that's the situation here. However, the Jaguars are on an incredible win streak right now for that team, considering how bad they were at the beginning of the season. I have faith in Lawrence here. I have faith in this entire team. The defense is playing well. That island game, well, I guess it technically wasn't an island game since there were 2 games on Saturday. But Saturday night, they really went out there and gave it all to the Titans. Now, the Titans wanted it, but they just couldn't come through in the end. They didn't have the firepower. And the Jags took it. This really is a tough pick. But I will stay with my inclination and say the Jags win this at home.
See, this is a difficult one. And this is also the closest game spread-wise. This one's basically a pick'em. Chargers 1-point favorites, but it's in Jacksonville. So it's a difficult one to pick because both of these quarterbacks and teams in recent history haven't really shown much playoff success. For the Chargers, on the one hand, this is long overdue. It's Justin Herbert's first playoff game, and it's hard to believe that is possible considering he's been the best quarterback ever in his first 3 seasons in the league, breaking every record imaginable and probably continuing to do so. And Trevor Lawrence is on a surge. You could argue he's coming into the league next year as a top 7 quarterback. I'm going Herbert. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. He's played more in the NFL, and that's really the only reason why. Now, coaching-wise, you should be trusting Doug Peterson here, right? Because he's been there. He's been all the way. He's been to the Super Bowl. But the Jaguars team is coming off of a big turnaround, and it's their first season. They just about beat out the Titans, but they started the season really, really badly. So yeah, the momentum's going the right way, but I think the core isn't really at that level. So I'll take the Chargers in what is promising to be a wild game. Now the Chargers themselves tend to disappoint sometimes whenever they're not supposed to at all. Still a bit concerned about the availability of Mike Williams coming into the game. But I'm going Chargers. Sorry, I had a quick technical issue there. Yeah. So I'm going Chargers. We're going with Justin Herbert to get it done. Dolphins at the Bills.
I guess this right here comes down to, is Tua going to make it back to play this game or not? I'm starting to believe that Tua may just be done for the season. But that is the only way they have a shot in this game. The Bills are just way too good on offense, even on defense for the Dolphins. Skyler is not going to get anything done, that's for sure. I don't think they could get it done if Teddy Bridgewater plays this game because the Bills are just that good. Bills had another great week, put one over on the Patriots, made sure they weren't going to make the playoffs, so I will give them a round of applause for that. And I can't not take the Bills at home here. I think even though Tua beat the Bills earlier in the season, and obviously they couldn't get it done without Tua, I think the Bills take this even if Tua plays.
Yeah, so there is no way they're doing this if Tua doesn't play. That's for sure. If Tua doesn't play, I'm taking the Bills against the spread. Even they're 10-point favorites, I'll take them. No questions asked. This team is phenomenal. Maybe the best roster in the AFC. And the Dolphins, without Tua, have been incredibly mediocre. Remember all these wins and eventually their playoff spot, which they had to fight for till last second, by the way, after losing to New England as well, came off the back of Tua when he was the starting quarterback. If he's not there, no shot. I'm going to assume that they'll try whatever they can to get him there, because if he isn't, it's the last game anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter. But I'm still going to go Buffalo, even if he does play. Think the Bills have become incredibly strong at the right time over the last few weeks. Again, against New England, they looked phenomenal. First time I ever remember seeing 2 kick return touchdowns in the same game, because we didn't see the outcome of their game against the Bengals, which would have been a true challenge. But there's a pretty good chance we're going to see that again in the playoffs. Next week would be it if they both win their games. So Buffalo takes it at home. Giants at the Vikings.
Now, you would think this is going out on a limb here. And I think maybe I am going out on a limb. I don't know what Vegas has to say, but I would almost guarantee you, without looking at the numbers, that the Vikings are favored in this game, especially being at home. The Giants took the fight to the Eagles this past week, who was playing Hurts and had all the reason in the world to win. The Giants did not, and they played backup players in this game. And the Giants were still kind of close to winning that game. They had a shot there with their backups, and the Eagles were putting it all on the line because they wanted that 1 week bye, and they got it in the end. Hurts is much better than any backup you could throw out there. You know, Gardner Minshew aside, I guess. I think with all the starters back in place, as we've said for weeks, the Vikings are the worst team to have that good of a record in recent memory. And unless there's like this last second kick that wins this game, I am taking the Giants on the road.
You think it's out there, you think you're reaching, but the Vikings get 3 points for being at home and nothing else. Wow. 3-point favorites are the Minnesota Vikings, so that means effectively saying these teams are equal. This is a coin flip game, and I agree with that. Now, and I think everyone who's been watching kind of agrees with that. If you take attention away from purely the records, and considering that the Giants played in the death division and the Vikings played in a very soft division, relatively speaking, these teams are closer than you would think. Now, Daniel Jones is going to be back. The starters are going to be rested. Brian Daboll he's put life into this team more than we've seen in the last 10 years, like the Eli Manning miracle Super Bowl days, right? Suddenly the Giants are on the map. They somehow survived the 3rd spot in the NFC East. That's how strong that division was. Vikings keep struggling all the time. Listen, if you're a team that can just, on the drop of a hat, go 33 down against Jeff Saturday and the Colts, that can just get lit up by 40 points against the Packers in Week 17 for no apparent reason at all, because it's not like they're missing all their starters or anything, I'm not going to trust this team a whole lot. I'm going to trust the Giants and them to actually get it done. So Daniel Jones goes to Minnesota, and he beats Kirk Cousins for the first, on paper, upset, but in reality, not that big of an upset at all to me. So that means the Giants are moving on. Huh? Mm-hmm. Ravens at the Bengals.
I love it. I like the Giants, man. I want to see them succeed, and I think they will here. The Ravens, it's this same thing with the Dolphins. It depends on if Lamar is going to be out there, because if they're using Huntley, it's not going to get done, especially against the Bengals. They are so good. The Bengals look like you're in a tough conference with the Bills and the Chiefs and all of that, but they look like they are one of the top 3 teams right now, and they're on fire. I can't say anything more than that. The Ravens are not good without Lamar. Would they even be good enough with Lamar to win this game with the momentum that the Bengals have? I gotta say no. I am gonna take Joe Burrow to put one over on the Ravens.
This feels like a similar question between the Dolphins and Bills as well, right? Are they even going to have their quarterback? Because if there's no Lamar, it's not a debate. The game's off the table, Bengals win. If they do have Lamar, and I'm very not sure if they do, because there's multiple reasons he might not play. Clearly the injury thing is one thing, but then also he's trying to increase his pressure in the contract situation, right? So if he's saying, listen, I'm not playing, like, even though he could health-wise, that's a big statement, and we'll see how that goes in the offseason, because apparently there's a bit more conflict behind closed doors than we thought there was with them just not being willing to pay him what he wants. So either way, I'm going to go the Bengals. Even if we assume Lamar Jackson plays, the Bengals have been phenomenal. They've closed the game, the year with like a 7-game winning streak, if you take away the Bills game, which doesn't really count. They've been winning games left and right. They've been winning against Baltimore, and they are a dangerous team, and I think they are going to play the Bills again next week, which is the matchup everybody wants to see, and that will be for a spot in the AFC Championship. So hopefully we get that next week. Bengals win. Finally, we have somehow the least interesting game in the primetime Monday night. I don't get why they put this there. Cowboys at the Bucs.
Yeah, maybe we can get a disagreement out of this one. I have to ask you this first. Do you hate the Cowboys or the Seahawks more?
That's a difficult one. So I'm gonna say this, right? Me personally, like, I'm going Seattle. And here's why, right? If you've been a Niners fan since 1970, you might hate the Cowboys more, and I get that. But I started watching football around like 2010, right? Dallas has not been relevant since then. And the Niners-Seahawks rivalry is like the main thing, right, for me that I kind of saw. So to me, I'm going Seattle, even though that may die down as the Seahawks kind of become bad. Like, for example, right now, I don't feel particularly antagonistic to the Cardinals, even though they're technically a division rival. It's more the Rams and Seattle that I hate more, because they've been more relevant in recent times and actually competing for playoff spots with the Niners. So I'm going Seattle. That doesn't mean I don't hate the Cowboys, however.
So I guess that takes away the narrative of your most hated team in the playoffs versus my most hated team in the playoffs. Probably one of my least favorite quarterbacks of all time. Although, you know, he has been greatness in his career, he is not good right now. Tom Brady is pretty bad, and he has proven that all year. A lot of people still have faith in him here. They do get it on the road only because they won a really bad division. Their record is really bad. I want to say it's probably the second worst record to enter the playoffs, next to Seattle, you know, that had that 7-9 record. And I think the only reason that happened is because they had one more game to play than Seattle did that year. I think the Cowboys and Dak are good enough to get one over the Bucs. I don't believe in playoff Brady. I am going to pick the Cowboys on the road.
See, this is difficult for me to pick. Obviously, it's one of the closer games here. Yeah, you'd think Dallas, they'd have a better record. They come from a much stronger division. They've been more convincing throughout the year, and Tampa Bay is kind of the only reason the Bucs are in here is because someone had to be in here. Like realistically, no team in the NFC South should be in here. Packers would have been better, the Lions would have been better. Everyone knows it, but some team from the NFC South had to be here. So they have absolutely no reason to be there. That being said, though, I think this gonna be closer than we think because the Cowboys are incredibly inconsistent. We see them beat Philadelphia and then turn around and get stomped out by Washington. And I mean, like, pick six, terrible performance by Dak Prescott. And that matters. You know, if your quarterback is this inconsistent, that really matters because that can tear your team down no matter how good, you know, your defense and your running game is. And the defense has also not been that consistent. So, to me, this is a low-scoring game, for one. I'm going to go Dallas because I know that when they're playing at like their baseline level, they're much better than the Bucs. But I know there's upset potential. They're in Tampa Bay, obviously, which is kind of hilarious. This is another one of those weird rule things. Shouldn't matter. The Cowboys are still favored, but it's only 2.5 points. So clearly that loss against Washington didn't exactly inspire confidence. Plus, you never know what to expect out of the Bucs. In theory, they have the talent, just haven't really been able to put it into practice. I'm going Dallas. I'm kind of slightly rooting for the Bucs, of course, because I want Dallas to lose. But on the other hand, I also want the Niners to play Dallas again. Yeah. But either way, I'm going Dallas as well. That means our only disagreement is the Chargers and the Jaguars. Yes. I have one thing though. How come I thought the Saints was your most hated team, or is it also a case of what I've described with like the recent success thing?
Well, there's that, but I did give it a disclaimer there. The most hated team in the playoffs right now.
Oh, in the playoffs. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
The Saints are absolutely my most hated team of all time. Okay,
right.
You know, but since Brady is there, you know, the Patriots are one of my most hated teams of all time also. And that was mainly because of Brady and that run they went on and what happened in the Super Bowl. But since Brady is at the Bucs and they're also division rival, that puts them right up there with the Saints. So yeah, I really want to see the Bucs lose. I mean, I don't hate the Cowboys like you do. They're not one of my favorite teams or anything. I would love to see the Cowboys just get rid of Brady. Now, here's the way you do that. You get the whole team together and you go, look, guys, come on in. This is not the Brady, the intimidator, the guy that we should be scared of. That's not that Brady anymore. There is no reason to worry about this. You guys got it. You can roll right over him. He's not the Brady of old. We can do this. That's how you get the team ready, because if you just go off of reputation alone, you know, Brady has put a lot of people out just by being Brady and the run that he's been on for the past 22, 23 years. I think a lot of people lose against Brady before they even hit the field. It's all mental because it's Tom Brady. But if you can convince the team that this is not the Tom Brady that we're used to seeing, I think the Cowboys have a shot here.
It really isn't, and it just shouldn't take much of a view of the tape to notice that he's not. This is a quarterback that's been thoroughly outplayed by Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and Desmond Ridder, which are three guys that probably altogether add up to his age. Yeah. So yeah, he's definitely not the same player. But what he does have, he's never going to fall below a certain level, just like Peyton Manning did, where even if there's like, they're kind of falling off of a cliff from where they used to be, just because they've been in the league for so many years and they have so much experience. You're not gonna invent like a defensive baseline that he hasn't seen over the weekend. That's just not gonna happen. So to a degree, he always has the capability to do things. Of course, everything just slows down. But no, he's not what he used to be. Everybody knows that, but with Dak Prescott, for example, we don't know what he is, because he's never been something for more than like 3 weeks at a time. So we don't know what he is. That's why the uncertainty is always there. But I do agree with that. Yeah, I think they'll be able to get it done. Kind of rooting against them, but I think they'll get it done. So that will give us the following matchups for next week. Then we'd have the Giants at the Niners. We would have the would we? Yeah, Giants at Niners. Yeah, No, the Giants would be at... Wait, I'm confused now. Would the Giants be at the Niners, or would they be... They would be at Philadelphia, right? Because they're the lowest seed. Dallas at the Niners is what it would be in the NFC. So that would be cool. We'd get the big rivalries: Buffalo Bengals and the divisional Chargers Chiefs.
Yeah, which if the have you heard about that? If the Bills and the Chiefs end up playing in the championship, that it's going to be on neutral field. Obviously,
it'll be on a neutral field because if the Bills had played that game against in Cincinnati and had won it, they would have the 1 seed.
Yep. But there's no way to tell, so might as well.
There's no way to tell, exactly. So giving one team the home field advantage over the other would be unfair, so they'll play neutral field.
That'll be interesting. I mean, there's a very good chance that scenario happens, and it's going to be
very possible.
Chiefs, yeah.
And they should play it in Detroit or something.
Yeah.
Because remember, the Bills already played in Detroit on Thanksgiving. Yeah. Or no, the night before, the week before Thanksgiving, because of the 6 feet of snow in Buffalo, and also because there hasn't been a playoff game in Detroit in, I don't know, this millennium, so...
Poor Lions, they were so close.
They were close. Oh, they'll get there, maybe. They might get there. I mean, I think they're building something. Aaron Rodgers might leave the division. The Vikings are frauds, probably. Chicago, they have the first overall pick. The Lions might be the best team in the division next year.
Yeah, I would be afraid to play them next year. I think they're going to be good if they can continue this momentum. Yeah, I mean, they may be the post-type sleepers next year. If you think about it, because of Hard Knocks, of course they had hype going into this season. But maybe they were too good at the end of the season to really be. Because I like to pick a team that just bombed, that everybody thought would probably be good this season, and then they just went nuclear bad, down a downward spiral. And then usually the next season they pulled it together and make that playoff run that everybody thought would have happened the season before. It's the curse of supposed to, when people think you're supposed to do it when you're a team like that, sometimes you just fail. And then you realize when everybody's off of you, okay, now we can get these wins. And it happens like that a lot.
See, I'm convinced that Hard Knocks is, especially in-season Hard Knocks, is kind of a curse, right? Because last year we had the Colts. Everyone thought they were a playoff team. Easy playoff team. Nothing. Fell short, last second, lost to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
This year we had the Cardinals, who came in with one of the best records from last season and made the playoffs convincingly. And they're falling apart. I mean, completely falling apart. Their quarterback, I don't know what's happening to him. Their best defensive player retired. GM de facto retired, steps away for undetermined amount of time. Head coach fired. And now their defensive the defensive coordinator is interviewed. No, not their defensive coordinator. One of their executives is being interviewed for GM job with the Colts. So there's nothing left of the Cardinals at all, and they were on Hard Knocks, which I can't wait to see that last episode. But but the offensive line coach got fired in Mexico before the trip home because he did some crap in a bar on their trip. So everything's falling apart, and maybe Vance Joseph will take the head coaching spot. I wouldn't mind, right? I like Vance Joseph, so hopefully maybe he'll get a shot. But a team's disintegrating. Definitely Hard Knocks curse. And by the way, the Colts completely fell apart after last year. Like last year, they at least looked competent. And I find it funny because they specifically invented in-season Hard Knocks to show good teams. Because some of the requirements to be on the original Hard Knocks is that you have not made the playoffs for 2 years in a row. So you'll generally have bad teams because you want to show the rebuild, right, in training camp. You don't want to see the Bills or the Chiefs in training camp, whereas just keep doing your thing. Nothing big happens. No new major stories to tell. So you want rebuilding teams. So they invented the in-season Hard Knocks to show good teams and playoff fighting and the process to being good and actually winning. And then this happens. So I'm curious to see who's gonna be on in-season Hard Knocks next year. Hopefully Dallas or someone just to have them fall apart.
Just to curse them. Probably the Vikings.
The Vikings. Could be. Niners are also eligible for it, of course. I think the Falcons are now eligible for regular Hard Knocks again, or
preseason.
They've been on regular Hard Knocks in 2013. It's 10 years ago, so maybe it's about time again.
Well, that's when I first started hearing about the curse of Hard Knocks, of course, because it doesn't work out. I mean, the Bucs suffered it. Who else? The Raiders.
I feel like it's more of an in-season Hard Knocks curse than the regular, because remember, the regular Hard Knocks teams are already bad, and the Falcons in 2013, they were bad, but then, like, over the next 3 years, they became a playoff team.
That's true. Yeah.
They actually became good.
But it's usually teams they expect to be good, though, and maybe it's one of those things where it doesn't happen the first year, and then they get good, but...
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the Texans actually had a decent run after, not that year, but the years after when they got Deshaun Watson, they had a decent run.
That was good. You know, I'd love to see the Broncos on Hard Knocks during training camp next year.
Man,
what they really need to do, here's what they really need to do. We need an off-season Hard Knocks. One that airs, like, that plays after the Super Bowl, and it follows them, like, during scouting and everything.
Yeah.
In the combine and into the draft. That is what we need. Just Hard Knocks all year round. Don't even stop the series anymore every week.
Well, the NFL Network needs more programming for off-season.
Yep. Exactly, yeah. You have other leagues now to compete with.
Exactly, yeah. And they want to keep you invested year-round. They lose the casual fans during the off-season. So, I mean, you got a network to run. There's just some programming right there.
This is 24 hours of TV in a day, so you got to do something.
Exactly.
Here's my idea, and the NFL can take it for me for free. Off-season Hard Knocks with the Denver Broncos. Please do it.
Yeah, and it needs to be a team every season that's in complete turmoil like the Broncos.
Yes, completely falling apart.
Yeah.
Though the Broncos aren't interesting because they don't have a high draft pick.
No, they do not.
They traded it to Seattle, so they don't even get to make the pick.
Yeah. But they can follow them trying to work out this salary cap situation.
Oh, yeah.
And the debate, like, how do we get rid of Russell? Like, is it even possible?
How do we convince him to stop this?
The Raiders is another team that could be on that.
Raiders could be on it, yeah. Colts are fitting. Jim Irsay's interviews with every head coach would be great to see.
Yeah.
Coaching candidates.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of coaching vacancies, by the way, and maybe we'll bring that up in a future episode. Or do you want to talk about them now? With what we know so far.
I haven't really studied too much about it, the names that they're pulling up. I mean, I've heard a few. I mean, have a few ideas also of names that haven't been brought up in the media yet, but...
maybe we'll move that. Let's move that maybe into next week.
I was going to say, is there any big names you've heard about recently?
I mean, the media rumors, of course, like the big names. You have Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, that people are talking about, both in connection with Denver for some reason. I have no idea why either of those would ever subject themselves to that at all. It makes no sense whatsoever. Jim Harbaugh already has a great job, gets paid a lot of money, has all the executive power he could ever ask for, more than he would ever get in the NFL, especially in Denver. And Sean Payton, I mean, he left because he didn't want to coach mediocre teams.
They want to draft.
Drew Brees retired.
Yeah, like that's the craziest thing to me is they want a draft pick for a coach. Who's gonna take that? They want a first round. Like who's taking that?
I have no idea. Denver can't do it. They don't even have the pick.
Yeah.
So I've no idea. Who needs a coach that bad? Does Indianapolis need a coach that bad? I think they need a quarterback with that first pick.
Yeah. And the thing about Harbaugh is he has said several times in years past that no, there's no way I'm leaving. I'm not going to the NFL. I will be here. And I think he continues to say that after every season. They've had a few good seasons over the past couple of years, but he continues to say that. Yet, he does take the interviews for all of the NFL jobs.
He does, yeah.
So, I think he's gonna take one eventually.
He'll take the interviews, but I think it's just like in the very off chance that some team is willing to throw an incredible amount of money at him, more than even Michigan does, which is unlikely to happen. We've seen the same with Nick Saban now for over 10 years. Like, they've been in the NFL, they've tried. It didn't work. They didn't get to do it their way. So they don't have an incentive to really come back.
Yeah, well,
I don't see it.
that's the thing people are talking about also, being in the Georgia circle, that they're like, well, Kirby could possibly just take an NFL job. Why would you? You have the best team in college football right now, and you are making equivalent money. There is no reason to take that chance and burn your career down. It
More
worked out.
freedom, less pressure.
Yeah, exactly. It worked out for Saban, but it's not going to work that way for everyone. I mean, you could be surpassed by another coach at your old team, and they're not ready to take you back. They've already signed a contract with a new coach. I mean, maybe you could go to a lesser school or something, but you're not going to have the success that you had at Georgia. So it would be dumb for Kirby, or maybe Lincoln Riley would take that because he's just a wild dude that likes to take chances.
Yeah, with him you never know. I think he'd definitely go for the NFL.
Yeah. I think he will eventually. I mean,
he'll try it. He will try. Someone will give him a job. It might be Jim Irsay, and they will try.
Yeah, he's better than
work.
Cliff Kingsbury. So
maybe. Yeah. Kingsbury looked good for a few years. He's out now.
Yeah, they did have a playoff run last season. So
where do you think Kingsbury ends up?
Oh, back at college. I mean,
back in college?
Unless he's the offensive coordinator for the Patriots or something. But
oh wow, I do not want to see that. He's probably a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has been in the past, and that's one thing I didn't get when he came into the league, is he was not that successful at Texas Tech, and they had Patrick Mahomes. You had Patrick Mahomes, you should have been winning national titles, and they were not. And give it, recruiting is what it is.
That is true.
College is a whole nother story, but if you have Patrick Mahomes playing on your team, you should have won a national title, right?
Kind of true, but you can always argue this from both sides. You can also say he is such a great coach that he turned Patrick Mahomes during his most impressionable time in college into the player that he eventually became in the NFL. Can look at it both ways.
Should have did that for Kyler Murray then.
Should have done it, didn't do it. Kyler was beyond help. Kyler was influenced by Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, exactly. Baker too.
Yeah.
You think Lincoln is the reason they didn't work out in the NFL?
I mean, it's the reason they came into the NFL overhyped.
Yeah.
I mean, neither of those should have ever sniffed a Heisman or a first overall pick. That's what Lincoln Riley does, and I'm now wondering about what I'm supposed to think about Caleb Williams coming. Jalen Hurts talked about Caleb Williams in the future coming into the draft. Should I buy it, or is it like we've gotten burned like this enough time?
Well, that's the story with like the Ohio State quarterbacks. What is it really? Just a system curse? Maybe Justin Fields will work out and break that, but people are going to be worried about taking a chance on C.J. Stroud, considering the track record of all these great Ohio State quarterbacks that just fizzled out immediately in the NFL.
Yeah, it's someone's going to take him, and we're going to see him. We're going to see Caleb Williams. We're going to see them play in the NFL. How it goes, we have no idea. What we do know is the Bears actually do have the first overall pick and not the Texans. I wonder if Lovie Smith went for 2 at the end because he knew he was going to be fired.
I think so.
And the last thing he wanted to do is just deny them the first pick.
I think so. I think that's exactly what it was, because if he knew he was staying, he's going to go for the number 1 overall pick. Give it. Davis Mills probably wasn't thinking that he's going to try to win if at all way possible, because he knows he's going to get replaced, especially if they have the number 1 overall pick. So why not go out with a win? And Lovie Smith was probably thinking the same thing. If I'm going out, although I did see the press conference after the game, and he said he expects to be back. Now I don't know if that's just posturing, saying.
Yeah, that's just talking, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they fired him before the day was even over. He talked about Black Monday. He was fired Sunday night. I'm pretty sure, in the locker room or in the plane or something, he was already told. So, kind of had an idea, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But I love the shot. I love the shot of Cal McNair, who's the Texas owner. Right after they convert the 2 points, he's standing on the sideline. He's looking legitimately mad about winning that game.
It's funny. That's just when the team
good.
is like, okay, we're out of here. We'll show you, because we can win. And the Texans were putting something together at the end of the season. I think with another whole season, Lovey could have made this team into something formidable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not a Super Bowl.
We'll see if he get. I mean, he'll be interviewed for other head coaching jobs. I think he'll get a shot.
Yeah.
A lot of these is like all these coaches will. I think he'll definitely get a shot. Same with Steve Wilkes if Carolina doesn't lock him up, which I'm starting to think more and more the Panthers should just lock him up. I mean, you have to do the interview process, right? Because you fired a coach, so he's interim technically. But I think so. I mean, the Panthers have looked good. I think you give him another year. Give him, Darnold. The defense is looking good. You kind of have receivers. Draft some offensive line. I think you have the NFC South is bad, right? What you have right now is good enough to win the NFC South. You just beat the Bucs one more time, you already win the NFC South after coming in 0-5 and trading away your best player. I think the Panthers one good season with what's currently working will make the playoffs. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think they'd be going out on a limb to keep Steve Wilkes for another year, but yeah, I mean it's possible, I guess.
He'll go somewhere else if they don't. He did a great job as interim coach. He will get his opportunity, I'm pretty sure.
And that's the only head coaching spot he's had was 2 interim terms, right? I mean, I know he had one with the Cardinals, but he's never had a full-time head coach job, right?
I think someone gives him a season for sure, maybe 2.
Yeah, maybe so, and maybe it'll work out for him. Oh, one more thing. I said this to you offline, but while we're on here, I would not be surprised if Todd Monken ends up back in the NFL and possibly as the offensive coordinator under Bill Belichick.
You did say that. You did say that after the game last night.
Yeah, because Bill Belichick was scouting that game.
He was sitting in the stands with binoculars.
Exactly.
Yep. You'd think he's looking for players, but you never know with Belichick.
Well, he
needs an offensive coordinator.
Yes, he does. Yeah. I mean, what better guy? He's got NFL experience, and we know that he can put together a great offense. So,
here's the other one. You brought up Kingsbury. Maybe people don't know this anymore. Cliff Kingsbury actually played under Bill Belichick for the Patriots as a quarterback in the early 2000s.
Wow, really?
He might be qualified. Cliff Kingsbury backed up Tom Brady for a while. He is younger than Tom Brady.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Did he ever get on the field?
I don't know. I doubt it because it was Brady already there. But he already knows what the system's about. He knows the Patriot way, as they say, right?
Wow.
Maybe he's qualified.
And then there's also the name Bill O'Brien been thrown around. I know Alabama fans want him out of there, so that's a possibility also.
Never a good bet if you're getting kicked out of college, more or less. Someone in the NFL will pick you up. That's usually not how it works. Yeah. But he's been in the NFL, and I think he's been a serviceable coordinator. He wasn't a great head coach.
Yeah.
Options are open for sure for Patriots. I would not be surprised if Kingsbury got a call.
That would
not
be crazy, yeah. He does like people that he's tied to in the past, so.
It is very possible, but we will see about that. Next week, we're going to have, of course, the divisional picks, and we're also going to start or do some little games on the side because the shows are going to be shorter, so we have a quiz. We're going to have something that Smokey's preparing, which is about quarterback rivalries. Yeah. So the intricacies of that we will hear next week. It should be interesting, should be fun. Drop us a like on this one, and be sure to subscribe and tune in next week as we are wrapping up the playoffs. Chargers, Jags is the game to watch. That's our disagreement this week. But let us know your picks for all these in the comments. And Smokey, do you have anything to add?
I think that's it for this week.
All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. And we'll see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.